All right, so data miners have uncovered and leaked some very exciting information about Switch 2. Two different data points we're going to be walking through today, one of which having to deal with the exact power level of Nintendo Switch 2, at least as accurate as you can get with that, with something like a teraflops metric. And of course, we have to have that broader conversation about how teraflops are not an end-all be-all or an apples-to-apples comparison when it comes to raw power nowadays. And we have DLSS baked into this console, which is a big talking point around where you should be setting your expectations for how powerful it will actually be in comparison to the other systems on the market. Then, also related to data mining of the SDK of Nintendo Switch 2, it seems like we might have a better idea of potentially what that C button is, or at least at the very bare minimum, a base level feature that we should be able to expect as part of Nintendo Switch Online this time around, that I do believe will be baked into the operating system at a core function level. So not that anyone was actually using it, but you might not ever have to open up that Nintendo Switch Online smartphone app again, because it sounds like we got voice chat right out of the gate with this console. But we're going to get on the same page with all of this info. Before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And we have to first start off by hopping over to Go Nintendo, where they do have the write-up on exactly what the tech specs are in terms of what to expect from the power profile from the Nintendo Switch 2. This is according to some data miners that have apparently uncovered this information as part of the SDK. This is not information that's official from Nintendo, so keep that in mind. It's not like an end-all be-all for sure. This is what it is. But it does seem like online the general consensus is that this is most likely entirely accurate for what we should be able to expect the power profiles to look like for handheld and docked mode for the Nintendo Switch 2. I should also briefly mention, at the time of filming, we are expecting that announcement to go live for the official reveal trailer at any time. I will be at my regular day job when that potentially happens, so I will get that breaking news video out to you guys just as soon as humanly possible whenever it does indeed drop. Maybe it's already dropped at the time you're seeing this potentially, but handheld power profile, CPU 1100 megahertz, GPU is at 561 megahertz or 1.72 teraflops peak. This is in handheld mode. The RAM is at 2133 megahertz and 68.26 gigabytes rather, peak bandwidth. And then we have the docked performance coming in at the CPU, surprisingly lower, and this has gotten some people talking online, and yes, it appears that's not a typo or anything. The CPU seems to be clocked slightly lower in docked mode than it is in handheld, but keep in mind, GPU is the bulk of what the performance requires from games, or the processor you want to have ramped up for games performance and things. But 998.4 megahertz is what that's claimed to be clocked at. GPU would be clocked at 1007.3 megahertz, and you have 3.09 teraflops of peak power. The RAM at 32 megahertz or 102 gigabits per second or gigabytes per second peak bandwidth. And then for a comparison in terms of the teraflops, for the Xbox Series S, it clocks in at 4 teraflops, while the PS4 Pro is at 4.2 teraflops. We can also go a step further by showing the teraflop percentage comparison with PS4 and PS5, and they have that down beneath where, you know, the docked is going to exceed the PS4 teraflops by 111%. Handheld comes in at 61% of that. And this is where you have to kind of have that, you know, really understanding that teraflops are not everything. However, that 3.09 teraflops number, actually pretty exciting considering the Series S clocks in at 4. Again, it's not a perfect comparison, but you have to realize that it doesn't need all of the raw compute power, knowing what we know, which is that Nintendo partnered with NVIDIA and that they will have the DLSS technology baked in at the chipset level, which essentially means that Nintendo is going to get away with basically the base resolution of any game they are running can be significantly lower than they are going to upscale it to with DLSS. Now, it's not a perfect technology, but it works pretty dang well, and it's essentially a cheat code for developers to get a lot more performance out of the hardware that they're working with whenever they don't have to run that native resolution so high on the system. You'd be amazed how much raw processing power from the GPU that eats up when you have to run something at like a 1440p or 4K resolution potentially, whereas if you can actually just have that running at 900p or 1080p and upscale it all the way to 1440 or 4K, that is what you want in the Nintendo Switch's hybrid form factor. And so with the power of NVIDIA DLSS, it's being claimed that this will actually be right in line with kind of that Series S level performance and docked play, maybe even a little bit above that of a Series S. and then right in line with something comparable to a PS4 Pro. Again, not in terms of raw compute power, but by time you enable DLSS and you have that game running at a lower base resolution and upscale it via AI, that is actually what is possible here. So now Centro Leaks also chiming in on this with really the exact same numbers we just walked through, but the nice comparison that I want to point out is when you look at it compared to Switch 1 in terms of raw compute power when it comes to teraflops. The original Switch in docked mode, like at its highest readable number, was 0.39 teraflops. So the Series S reaches 4 teraflops, as they mentioned as well. But you just start to think about how big of a power, just a raw power type of increase we're going to get from the Switch 1 and that Tegra X1 we've been gaming on this whole time. That's a pretty exciting increase, especially whenever you factor in the fact that DLSS is baked into this thing. So we're already hearing about a ton of different ports and games, and I did want to mention briefly too that PH Brazil is claiming that Metaphor Reach Fantasio will come to Switch 2 during its launch window. That's a pretty exciting fact, and something that's a shoe-in title, something I think we'll definitely see there. But we're talking about games like Metal Gear Solid Delta and some other really pushing the performance of even the current gen console type games just fully in the conversation for Switch 2 here. Assassin's Creed Shadows apparently won't be, a day one launch or anything like that title for the Switch 2, but it's going to be in the pipeline, presumably maybe a 2026 game or something like that. And the idea being that even these current gen iterations that are only being released on the PS5, Series X and S, they're also fully in the conversation to come to Switch 2, and it's not going to be something where day one we're buying something that's already aged hardware, or that we'll be missing a lot of the third-party support. It seems like Nintendo Switch 2 is comfortably going to be at a good level of power here with DLSS at their fingertips and with this kind of raw compute power that we're seeing from these power profiles. Just exciting stuff overall. We're going to have to wait and see, what Nintendo shows off, if anything, in terms of power at their reveal trailer, but these are reassuring numbers in my opinion. Then the big part two that I want to dive into has to do with some more data mining from the SDK and some apparent new claims about what that C button could be tied to, or at least at the very bare minimum, a new operating system level feature that will be built in that you will probably have access to only behind a paywall of Nintendo Switch Online. We have this post over on Family Boards, which has since been backed up by LIC, a very respected data miner within the community, that says Switch 2 C button functionality, or function rather, allegedly leaked as a social hub codenamed Campus appears for the Switch 2. So according to data mining from admins from the Switch 2 Discord server, data mines of the current Switch OS and exclusive SDK leaks have confirmed that the Nintendo Switch 2 will have a group chat and voice chat functionality codenamed Campus. This is what the C button may be for, unconfirmed, but I'm 99.99% sure. Groups will support up to 12 NSO subscribers. There will be screen sharing. This is exciting, and we'll dive into that. Nothing like Miiverse, Vidmeo isn't real. So you might remember a previous rumor we covered. There was some leaked OS stuff talk going on online that maybe Nintendo was doing something called Vidmeo as actually kind of a social media platform that they were creating similar to Miiverse. The claim was you could scroll vertically to look at video clips of other gameplay things that were shared online. Other gamers could share them with you. It sounds like that isn't real. We'll disregard what was said in that previous OS leak at this point, but feel free not to believe this, of course, but mark my words, it will be official in 48 hours. Now, that's an interesting claim because I don't necessarily think that this user knows what all will be featured in the trailer, and I don't necessarily think that we will see things like Nintendo Switch Online very highlighted in this trailer. It's possible that we will, and it's possible we will get a breakdown of what that C button does this time, but it's also possible that we won't, because if you think back to the original first look Nintendo Switch trailer, we didn't get a full explanation of everything that was in the operating system, but I do tend to believe this. We talked about the fact that within the shipping data for Switch 2, we know that there's a microphone component in there, and we have seen various different accessory manufacturers that have the casings available already for the Switch 2 based off the exact dimensions, that a lot of them have microphone cutouts. So presumably the microphone will be on the console itself, which means why are you going to put a microphone there? I mean, yes, Nintendo's gotten wacky with gameplay ideas for that before, but I think it is them coming into the modern day, supporting things like up to 12 players in a group chat together. I'm sure that this will include text and voice. You have the option to message your friends. You have the option to hop into rooms together with them, all in-house on your Nintendo Switch 2 console, which is just going to be a great upgrade. You're never going to have to worry about downloading any kind of silly NSO app to talk to them on your phone whenever you're playing on your console. So clearly something that we should have had for a long time at this point, but you know, something that's very welcome in my opinion. And also just the fact that screen sharing will be available. What that means, if you haven't had like a PS5 or something like that, essentially you're going to be able to share your gameplay on screen however you want. So if you're in the middle of playing a game and you want to show somebody exactly what you're up to, or maybe you solved a puzzle that they're stuck on, you can actually share your screen and they can pull it up on their end and put it as like kind of a minimized window in the background. Maybe you have to watch it full screen on the Switch 2. Maybe you can do screen and screen like you can with the PS5. That's a coin toss right now as far as how it actually works, but essentially on the PS5 you could make it full screen. You could also, you know, minimize it to a smaller window, put it in a corner somewhere, and then while you're playing your game, you're actually also able to watch what's going on from whoever is sharing their screen with you. So yet another cool little addition. I think that this is all stuff that's just going to enhance the value of Nintendo Switch Online, and clearly Nintendo's going to want to do that walking into their next generation console, because people pay an annual and monthly fee for that service. So it's no doubt that they're going to continue to bring value to the table with that service, and this is all stuff that's perfectly in line. Whether or not the C stands for anything related to chat or campus or, you know, command center, whatever it ends up being tied to, it may not stand for it, but you know, just the fact is that I think that C button is going to be some kind of community center, something to open up to where you can talk to your friends, some kind of hub, just like a game-based center or something from the PS5 where you can see what friends are online and you can chat with them and send messages and get into party rooms together. I'm actually thinking that that's what this button is, because it doesn't seem to be something that's going to be like a mappable button for gameplay. It's an operating system type of button as far as its placement goes. And I really don't think, as much as some people want to see it, even though I love the idea of it, I don't think cast is a thing, and I don't think that Nintendo is going to actually, you know, have any kind of thing where you're doing your Switch 2 in your hands, and that's going to be like the touch screen, and then you have a castable image to your screen, so that way you can play like DS games and stuff like that. I actually more likely think that Nintendo will just use that optical mouse sensor for the sideways Joy-Con, you know, to actually solve for DS touchscreen controls before we see them do something like the cast feature. But that was actually, you know, chat and community. That was in my video where I kind of speculated around what it might be. That's what I was leaning towards the most. That's literally what I have been thinking this whole time. And maybe it's not that tied to the C button specifically, but I do think that onboard chat and the party room thing is going to be a day one feature, which is, you know, I'm here for it. I would love them just to use Discord, or at least incorporate Discord as an option. But at the same time, I'm not going to complain. Whatever Nintendo gives us in terms of modern functionality like that, I think is absolutely a win. So definitely welcome to see. And then just a kind of couple miscellaneous things going around online that I do want to add into the tail end of this conversation. An image of what appears to be the back of the Switch 2's tablet was posted on Family Boards, showing the long-rumored Nintendo Switch 2 name and logo of the system, i.e. the big 2 next to the Switch logo above the Nintendo Switch text. And that's an image that we have right here. It's a very, you know, up close, cropped in, probably similar to that of what Necro Felipe saw, because he made a white and gray looking image that he posted out there saying it was the correct Nintendo Switch 2 logo, just recreated by him. This looks very in line with that. It's obviously heavily cropped if this is the back of the tablet. It's a very beefy looking 2. We have just, you know, the white text for the Switch 2 logo. It's probably on more of a darker black or just dark gray console, but maybe the lighting is making it light up like that. But a white logo on the back of the console is maybe what we should expect. This may or may not be legit, but it's been going around online and is an interesting look at Nintendo's most conventional naming idea ever so far, with them apparently calling their next generation console just Nintendo Switch 2, which I'm here for, but let's not overcomplicate it. Last thing I want to mention, and again, the announcement of the trailer could have already happened at the time you're filming this video. Maybe it hasn't, but we have further sourcing backing up the 16th/17th, I should mention, but that's probably more due to a time zone thing. But Jeff Grubb corroborates Nate Drake's Switch 2 reveal date of January 16th. Heard it from multiple directions and multiple continents. Rumor mentioned to have been circulating in the UK for a while, US as of last week or so. In terms of timing, Jeff was specifically told 16th/17th, but he figures that's just to account for various time zones. He states the US and Japan time zones as an example. So depending on when we see this trailer go live, like if it's late here in the US, it would actually be the next day over in Japan. And so as far as my personal prediction on when we might see them make the official announcement, it could be as soon as late as like 12 hours before, or even less than that, from when the trailer goes live. I'm just hoping they make an announcement at all. There's a small possibility they shadow drop it, but I really don't think that's the case. But you know, what we saw them do with the Switch 1 was actually just the night before, they had kind of in that evening post. So like, you know, your 7 p.m. Eastern time or 6 p.m. Eastern time maybe. And that was them just saying, tune in tomorrow morning, you know, for the first look at Nintendo Switch 2. That's what could happen. If it is actually late on Thursday, there is a world where they could actually wake up and announce it and say, tune in this evening. You never know with Nintendo. It would be a same day announcement at that point. I'm hoping we at least get the day before though, either way. But yeah, more sourcing besides all of the credible outlets and names, Jeff Grubb, Nate the Hate, Andy Robinson, Tom Warren, you know, literally all of these massive journalists online, all hearing the exact same thing. I think it's safe to get relatively hyped at this point for a Nintendo Switch 2 reveal, but of course we'll cover it again once that does indeed become official from Nintendo themselves. But let me know in the comments down below what you make of all this new info. Are you excited for things, you know, like the ability to chat with friends on Nintendo Switch Online and have up to 12 players in a room and have screen sharing functionality? Do you think we might get things like achievements baked into the operating system? And what do you think Nintendo will show off in terms of, you know, their actual power, if any, in this first reveal trailer? Are you excited to see stuff like the 3.09 teraflops in dock mode, and you know, that of the Series S level performance speculated with DLSS and things like that? Is that something that makes you excited and happy for what Nintendo's delivering? Or is there more to be desired for you personally? And what do you think the price point's going to be of this console once we learn about it? Because I'm seeing a lot of debate and back and forth around that particular topic online. So make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn your notification bell. And with that, I've been Sunbro, you've been Nation. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.